I call to order the 418th meeting of the Core Convention. Today on the agenda, we have the Emergency Intervention for Peace, Normalcy, and Reconstruction in Dendre, where we will be hearing from the esteemed delegation from the Iron Fist Accord, as well as the esteemed delegation from Dendre itself. Following that, we are going to have an economic work report on the Alliance government, which is presented by an independent expert. Then we will have doctrinal reform and economic opportunities, which is a subsection of that, which is going to be presented by the esteemed delegation from Onyx Systems. Following that, we will have a commission on piracy and internal security, where the esteemed delegation from Ithaca Concern, who as mentioned earlier is not currently here, will be presenting a proposal for the establishment of counter-piracy patrols in Carbensis. That will be read into the record by the Secretariat. Finally, to cap off the day, we will have the budgetary allocations for the 435th year, which covers any topics related to funding. So, without further ado, we're going to start with the Emergency Intervention for Peace, Normalcy, and Reconstruction in Dendre. With that in mind, the Secretariat invites the esteemed delegate from Dendre to the floor.
Sorry, can everyone hear me good? We've had some technical difficulties on our end and are currently using I'm just sorry. Yeah, okay, good. So as you know, there has been a variety of what some may describe as terroristic activity in the Dendre system. Attacks on both civilian and alliance military vessels in the area, causing great economic issues in to the peace and stability of the system in general. So of course we are glad to see the alliance military intervention intervening in the area, but we are also putting forward the idea to establish a independent defense force under the immediate jurisdiction of the Dendre government to for its peace and stability. It'll be a more affordable force than a long-term alliance military deployment, as it'll be able to use the smaller, more specialized vessels, unlike the alliance military, which is a primarily conventional force. After it's established, and it'll also be able to respond quicker and less bureaucratically than a large-term military deployment. We of course would also like to see economic investments to repair the damage caused by these attacks, and I'm not sure if there's anything else I need to say.
If that is all, we can.
That is all. Yeah, that is all.
Thank you, esteemed delegate from Dendre. With that in mind, we would now like to begin open discussion on the topic of creating an independent security force within the system of Dendre under the administration of the Dendre government, as well as the possibility of economic infusion for that purpose. The Secretariat would like to invite 2 individuals to speak in favor, and if there are individuals speaking against, to do so as well. I see that the esteemed delegation from the Outlying Systems Protectorate has signaled they wish to speak, and so they will be invited onto the stage.
Well, good afternoon, esteemed delegates. We've heard of the recent events in the Dendrite system and the regrettable loss of life, loss of material, and the loss of peace in that system. We have to take into consideration that the delegate from Dendrate has spoken about what he calls terrorist activity, of which we only get scant reports from. But the question is the following: Does these terrorists just appear overnight? And if they are indeed terrorists, they are usually politically motivated. And from what information we have, these terrorists that so far have not been named seem to have all formerly been part of the mining guild. And I believe that we have not yet heard the full story. However, the esteemed delegate from Dendrate here is speaking as if a natural disaster has befallen us, and we all collectively together must put forward material and support in order to alleviate the pain and the suffering and the damage that has been done. However, I believe that this matter is a bit more nuanced. However, normality should return, and the delegate of Dendrate has sovereign represents the sovereign body that rules over that particular system. So they are in their right as a member of this conference and our beautiful alliance to put forward this motion. However, I believe an inquiry is in order, because if these mining guilds terrorists have certain demands, then we should consider if their demands are legitimate. And if their demands are reasonable, why have negotiations not been the first step? Why is military power already being invoked against them? I believe an inquiry is in order. We have not heard the full story around this regretful events, and I implore this conference, esteemed delegates, representative of all the parts of this beautiful alliance, to consider that we are lacking in information. So I would like to add to the proposal of the delegate that the outer system protectorate is willing to support them, but only until an investigation has been done into the nature of these events, what caused it, and the consequences of doing this resolution as is intended, and if there's not perhaps a better way of doing it. That is all, gentlemen.
Thank you, esteemed delegate from the Outlying System Protectorate. The chair would now like to invite the esteemed representative from Onyx Systems to take the floor.
Greetings, my fellow delegates. I would like to say that those were some wise words from my friends in the OSP. I believe that it is imperative that we do find a diplomatic solution to this problem that we found ourselves in. I do have a clarifying question for the esteemed delegate Gianni. You mentioned that this force you'd like to create would be independent. I'm wondering what authority that would be under, who would lead such an expedition, and how can we ensure independence in that task force?
Please continue speaking for the length of the proposal, and they can respond to you after.
Okay. I believe that a diplomatic solution would be best. The OSP delegate is definitely onto something. We should pursue more diplomatic approaches before we bring the full might of any military task force to bear. We cannot risk inciting more violence, more instability within our alliance. I will cede my position.
Thank you, esteemed delegate from the Onyx Systems. Before we continue, as a brief administrative note, there has been a point of order called by the esteemed delegation from the Outer Systems Protectorate. The term OSP is not the legally recognized name for their nation, and would prefer that all further references as such be utilizing the correct name. With that said, the Secretariat would like to invite the Jade Company representative to the floor.
Two things. My first thing is under this new task force to deal with any possible terrorist attacks. Do we have an idea on the cost that the Alliance is going to have to put in order to start and maintain it for whatever length of time it will be needed? And two, although I do humbly agree with the idea of peace and diplomatic results first, I do have to question whether the sovereignty of the Dondaway system has been encroached upon, in which they have the full might and right to respond in whichever fashion they so please. However, in the investigation such that the outlying procreate systems would like us to engage in, who do they see as an intermediary independent system to oversee such delicate matters? Because I cannot see a truthful report coming from Alliance, heavily entitled Alliance Wars, or the outlying procreate systems, or the outlying systems procreate. I can't see a report coming from either of those completely truthful. So who do you guys think would propose a decent independent report, and then which nation or system would this then be the task for of a more neutral body? Step down. What's the
I'm sorry, were you in the middle of something? I take that as a no. Apologies. Okay. As a final delegation to be called up, after this we will commence voting on the amendment and the proposed sub-amendments to this plan. With that said, pardon me, we will hear from one more delegation, and then we will re-invite the esteemed delegation from Dendre up to answer the questions, and then we will commence voting. With that said, we would like to invite the esteemed representative for Kamalan to the floor.
The delegation of the Comlane Alliance would like to formally express our disagreement with the creation of an independent military within the Dendre systems. The Comlane Alliance, as a primarily civilian, peaceful organization, has been greatly affected by the current unrest happening within the Dendre system, and we believe that the establishment of an independent military force will further seek to sow the seeds of unrest among these rioters. I believe it was the honorable delegation from the Onyx Systems or the Outer Systems Protectorate who spoke about how these rioters probably have a political motive that they wish to seek out. And so the Comlane Alliance would like to propose against the creation of an independent military organization within the Dendre system, and instead seek to form a independent diplomatic expedition to these rioters in order to see their motives and attempt a peaceful resolution so that trade throughout the system can begin once more as soon as possible. Because for all the creation of an independent military can do is lead to more violence. I yield the rest of my time to the chair.
Thank you, esteemed delegation from Kamalan. With that said, the Secretariat would like to invite the esteemed representative from Dendre back to the floor, whereupon they will answer questions about this proposal. Following that, we will proceed to have two votes, one vote for the original proposal and a secondary vote to add an independent council to commence research into the causes of this riot in the system of Dendre. With that said, the Secretariat would like to invite the representative to the floor.
I understand why some may wish to attempt to seek out a peaceful solution to the situation, and I, for one, am a strong believer in looking at all other options before a military option is considered. But over 3 Alliance warships have been destroyed by these rioters. Over 100 spacers have lost their lives, including 2 from the including spacers from all members of the Alliance. And this is the time for negotiation is past here. Like, both a military response is absolutely necessary. What? Give me a moment. Sorry. Is there? We need both a urge of. This is an attack on the sovereignty of our system. We are defended by the Alliance Charter. If our sovereignty is being encroached upon, both by the loss of the monopoly of force, whether that be by another state or a non-state organization or group of any kind, we have the right to call upon the rest of the Alliance for our defense and to defend ourselves if we are not receiving that. So we understand your concerns, but I think it is of the utmost importance that both an independent task force is under the control of the Dendre government is established for the long-term security, and a surge of Alliance military forces also occurs. That is all.
Thank you, Representative from Dendre. The Core Convention shall now commence voting upon the issues discussed before it. This shall be conducted via yay or nay votes in the, to break character very quickly, in the text chat. Simply say yay or nay, respectively. Your vote will be counted. A 2/3 majority is required to pass. On the first point, voting on the addition of the independent independent commission to investigate the causes of the guild riots and the political motivations therein, vote yay or nay for the addition of that to the amendment. One moment, I'm counting the delegates. Okay, I believe that is... Members of the audience may not vote. I believe with that, we have a majority. With that, the addition to the proposal is passed. We will now move on to voting on the proposal to create the following. Number 1, a independent security force administered and run by the government of the system of Dendray, nation of Dendray, my apologies. 2, funding for rebuilding and for the administration of the rebuilding efforts, as well as funding to the nature of creating this independent security force. And now 3rd, the establishment of an investigative body to investigate the political motivations as well as the actions of the alleged terrorists in the Dendray system. Yay or nay votes accordingly. Let me do a quick line break. You may now begin voting. The esteemed delegation from Kamalin. Pardon me, I missed your vote. I was looking at the wrong spot. We have a majority in favor. With that, the motion passes. The exact wording will be worked out at the end of the, at the end of this convention of the core conference. With that, we will move on to the next issue on our agenda today. That is the economic work report of the Alliance government, which has been presented to all delegates before this. And now with that, we have a proposal from the Onyx Systems, the esteemed representatives of the Onyx Systems, for a doctrinal reform and economic opportunities amendment. With that, I invite the esteemed delegation from the Onyx Systems to the floor.
Esteemed delegates, our alliance faces a crisis of identity. Over 2 centuries ago, an immediate and existential threat rallied our people under one banner. Fighting side by side, our heroic ancestors sacrificed everything they could to protect our ways of life. And with every grave they dug, their bonds grew deeper. My fellow delegates, it saddens me to see that in the absence of a common foe, we have lost our way. The fraternal bonds of trust our kin sacrificed their lives to build have long since vanished from living memory. Esteemed colleagues and my fellow citizens of the Alliance, we stand on the precipice of a new and uncertain era. But I believe if we leap into this brave new world, arm in arm, we can forge a new era of peace, prosperity, and fraternity. It is in this spirit that the Onyx Systems petitions the Alliance for the following proposals. First, while the modernization of our ships and stations in the combined fleet has given us all great scientific rewards, we cannot rest. We must endeavor to think holistically. I move to begin deliberately intermixing the deployment of Alliance personnel so that every one of our citizens can once again learn to work with one another. Not only will this help foster an esprit de corps amongst our armed forces, but it will help to ensure the advantage of local knowledge wherever our task forces are deployed. Who better to advise and communicate with local populations than someone born and raised there? Second, as a gesture of fraternity and a commitment to the future of our alliance, my superiors in the High Triumvirate of Onyx have authorized the construction of a new international academy. Programs on industrial, economic, cultural, scientific, and military studies will be offered to any Alliance citizen who wishes to apply. Let us give the best and brightest of our people the tools to build a better future. We are in communication with our partners in the Ekotan Republic to find a suitable location, which we believe would serve as a fair, equidistant host for all members of the Alliance. The Onyx system asks its fellow members of the Alliance to aid in this undertaking, either through materiel or manpower, so that we may, as a united people, forge a brilliant future. Thank you, Secretariat.
Thank you, esteemed representative from the Onyx Systems. The Secretariat would now like to invite 4 members of the delegations to come forwards and speak in favor or against the proposal outlined. That is the mixing of Alliance personnel on Alliance naval vessels, as well as the establishment of a new Alliance Academy. The Secretariat would like to invite the esteemed delegation from the Jade Company to the floor.
This new charter that we are about to encroach upon, should the Onyx system have its way, I would like to know if this academy, this beacon to the west of the galaxy to show that we are not just a united alliance, but a single people under the banner of many nations. I would like to know who exactly is going to fund such a charter, and if that funding would be so equally motivated to bring out the impoverished and allow them equal opportunity with the wealthy, as well as with the intermixing of multitudes of fleet. Are we going to push forward into a third possible amendment to the charter, which is an advancement in already advanced military technology? Any stagnation of military leaves us weak to possible invaders, and I believe that we may be in a possible state of hubris by not continuing to innovate. And I would like to know if the Onyx system would be willing to also lead a house of innovation, not just military charter. And on that, I will step down, yield my time to the chair.
Thank you, esteemed representative from the Jade Company. The Secretariat would now like to invite the esteemed delegation from Kamalan to the floor.
The delegation of Comlin would like to reaffirm the Jade Company's comments speaking about innovation over military charters. This alliance, now unified, stands as a testament to our shared humanity and tenacity throughout the various systems we all harbor. And while on principle, the Cameline delegation would be in favor of uniting our various militaries and ships together, we find it rather ironic that the honorable delegation from the Onyx system would vote yes to allow Dendrade to form a independent military while simultaneously... Yes.
Items previously voted on are not to be brought back into discussion at the core convention. They may be brought up at the next core convention meeting. That is all.
It is for that reason, though, that we would like to vote. We would like to show our support against this order, as if we are to unite our militaries, it should be all of our militaries, all of our peoples should remain united. If I am not allowed to speak, then I will yield the rest of my time to the chair.
You may continue if it is focused specifically on the current proposed deal and not on the votes of previous actions.
Mm-hmm. I still yield.
Thank you, esteemed delegation from Kamalan. The Secretariat would now like to invite the esteemed representative of the Iron Fist Accord to the floor.
Dear delegations, we as Iron Fist Accord would like to approve this proposition, because every cent, any money in a budget that's spent on military is always great. especially when it's training new crewmen for our warships. We need to have a strong, united, and again, strong military base if we want to stand against any threat that is looming somewhere there, outside and inside. We think that this proposal might unite us in ways we cannot see it yet, and I call everyone to vote yay on this proposal, as it's only great for our union. I yield my time to the Secretariat.
Thank you, esteemed delegate from the Iron Fist Accord. As a final delegate, the Secretariat would like to invite the representative from the Outlying Systems Protectorate to the floor. After this, we will return to the Onyx Systems representative for final remarks and then voting.
Team delegates, friends. Upon hearing this proposal, it was very well worded. It sounds very spirited. It sounds like a call for further cooperation. And while all this might sound appealing to certain movements within this alliance that would like to make out of what once was a defensive military alliance into some sort of an integration movement, I believe that what the politicians and the technocrats have in mind for the future of this shelter archipelago of constellations of stars, and what the millions and billions that inhabit it, the population we represent, they might have differing ideas. And this conference is made with the intention that every member can decide for themselves. Now, we have decided long ago, in the face of a common threat, to band together and defend ourselves from that. And we did so successfully. We have opened our borders to each other, free flow of labor force, free travel across borders, free trade with minimal tariffs. So we have already done a lot of things to unite each other, but as it is right now, I believe that this representative, the outlying systems protectorate, cannot vote in favor of this, for that would not be representing the interests of the people that have appointed us to represent them at this conference. And as I said, this began as a defensive alliance, and it's slowly transforming into something else. And that's not what any of the members or any of the people of the Shelter Archipelago agreed for to begin with. And if the politicians decide to steer their people in a different course, then they will need to be held accountable to their people. But we do not make any judgments on the internal affairs of member states. We can only speak for the outlying system protectorate. So with that, I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you, distinguished representatives from the Outlying System Protectorate. The Secretariat would now like to invite the Onyx Watch back to the floor for final remarks.
Thank you, Secretariat. First, in response to the Jade company, in order to ensure equality in our academic and military reforms, I believe that if we are going to intermix the deployment of our armed personnel, we will be able to make more certain that we are giving equal opportunities to all of our armed service members. To the outlying system protectorate delegate, I believe that by intermixing our armed forces, we will actually be able to find a common ground for our people. If we are able to put each other in close proximity, we may be able to find solutions that we would otherwise be unable to find in separate rooms across star systems. I will yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, esteemed representative from the Onyx Systems. With that said, we would now like to commence voting of the Core Convention on the following issues. First, the addition of a proposal to specifically set aside additional funding for a research and development institute or wing to this proposed academy. We will now vote on the addition of that institute as a part of the amendment. Yay or nay? The amendment passes and has been added to the overall proposal. We will now commence voting on the overall proposal to do the following. Number 1, initiate a reform to mix Alliance personnel from various systems onto different vessels to better homogenize the crews aboard these vessels. Number 2, the establishment of an Alliance Academy with additional funding and an emphasis on supranational education. And now number 3, the addition of a Research and Development Institute to that academy to focus on the development of new technologies for the Alliance. We will now commence voting below the line. The motion passes. The specific details of that plan and the funding required will be drawn up after the core convention and sent to all delegates for final approval. We will now be moving on to the next item on our docket, which is the Commission for Piracy and Internal Security, which has a proposal from Ithaca Concern, who is not here, and thus will be read into the record by the Secretariat. Esteemed delegates of the Shelter Alliance, as you may have seen in the news, the pirate activities in various sectors continues to lead to loss of profit and life for our citizens. Most recently, a vessel, the Ithaca Phoenix, run by Iliad Shipping, while en route to the Outer Systems Protectorate, was attacked, seized, and eventually sunk by pirates in the system of Carbensis. This is an unacceptable state of affairs for the Alliance to have our citizens in fear of pirate attacks, yet alone the economic damage caused by this attack. The Phoenix was carrying electronic supplies to the Outer Systems Protectorate for the establishment of new mining facilities that are now months behind schedule. As such, we propose the establishment of various way stations, additional patrols, and an increase of force in the Carbensis system and other nearby systems to weed out this pirate activity. So ends the Ithaca Concerns proposal. The Secretariat would now invite 4 delegates to the floor to speak in favor or against this proposal. The Secretariat would like to invite the esteemed representative from the Iron Fist Accord to the floor.
Dear colleagues, as you know, the loss of ship is a great tragedy, and there is no way we can any logical way to negotiate with pirates. The only way to get rid of pirates is to kill them. And that's why we, as a Iron Fist Accord, a military-focused government, a nation, we would like to propose making a great fleet of escorts that would hunt down those pirates and bring them to justice. That's why we should put our effort to liquidation of this problem. That's the end.
Thank you, esteemed representative from the Iron Fist Accord. The Secretariat would now like to invite the esteemed representative from Onyx Systems to the floor.
I would like to stand by the remarks of the Iron Fist Accord. I believe that a fleet of new, lighter ships would be able to more effectively patrol our systems and prevent any further piracy. The establishment of way stations is also a good idea. If we can create a large as possible screen for any piracy operations, we can start to weed them out more effectively. That is all.
Thank you, esteemed delegate from the Onyx Systems. The Secretariat would now like to invite the esteemed representative from the Dendray Commission to the floor.
While we understand the concerns over piracy, there it is our belief that there are currently more pressing matters for the Alliance military to handle and such. So consider other matters of security before committing so many resources on a relatively minor issue. That is all.
Thank you, esteemed representative from the Dendray Systems. The Secretariat would now like to invite the esteemed representative from Jade Company to the floor.
I cannot stress any further that the abundance of our technological advance is provided by the Ithaca Corporation, and any impeachment on their sovereignty or delay in their trade lines could possibly critically suffer the entirety of the alliance to our technological and military superiority over our enemies. If the brainchild of our operation is under threat, they take priority. And with it being an almost unanimous unilateral problem, as they provide both equipment to the outlying systems protectorate for mining and the Alliance military for weapons, it is a critical issue should their trade and business be interrupted. However, in current response to the Dondaway issue, you have already been given your own independent task force in which you will be the leader. So I see no reason that they cannot have some additional help from the Big Brother Alliance military.
Thank you, esteemed representative from Jade Company. Final remarks will be held by the esteemed representative from the Frontier Initiative, who, due to circumstances outside of our control, is currently having a message delivered through a gate system. So please wait for that. It will be in the delegate VC text channel. After that, we will have final remarks by Ithaca Concern, which is me in this instance, and then we will move on to voting on the proposed amendment. Thank you, esteemed representative from the Frontier Initiative. In regards to Ithaca concern on the matter, obviously, as I am not their delegate, I cannot speak succinctly on the matter. However, I do believe that they appreciate the sentiment shared by that of the Iron Fist Accord, and similarly the Jade Company in regards to how the pirates must be dealt with. Similarly, I believe the Ithaca concern would call out the hypocrisy as mentioned with the Dendrade Commission receiving their private military force and then speaking against the countering of piracy, a scourge upon the alliance. However, with that said, I would now like to begin voting on the amendment. So, as there was no additional amendments required to this main one, we are going to proceed on just the merits proposed by Ithaca Concern. That is the following. Number 1, the creation of various way stations in the system of Carbensis and nearby systems from which Alliance naval vessels can rearm and refuel. Point of order upheld. Apologies for not calling that out myself. Carrying on. Number 1, the creation of way stations in various systems in Carbensis and nearby stations from which Alliance vessels may refuel, rearm, and receive supplies from. Number 2, the creation of new patrol routes within those systems to catch and provide ships in range to intercept attempted pirate activities against merchant vessels. And finally, sorry, one moment. And finally, the creation of independent units within that area to hunt down pirates and destroy them. We will now open it up to... That is not a point of order. Point of order is not upheld. I forget what the word for that is. We will now begin voting. Yay or nay, respectively. Overruled, thank you. Below the triple dash line. That is 5-7 in favor, which I believe is a pass. Yes. So yeah, it's 2/3, but we don't have a nice even amount. I think I passed something else earlier for being 5-7. We might have to come back to that and the previous one that passed on 5-7, but we're going to assume that that passed for the moment, and I'll just come back to that. With that said, the motion is carried, and the specifics of that detail will be sent to all delegates for final approval. I believe we are now on to budgetary allocations for the 435 IY year. Yes, we can come back to this in further debate. All of these may be covered in future debate. With that said, we are now going to open the floor for any proposals for specific changes in the funding or budgetary allocations from last quarter, beyond the issues already covered. I believe this was something that a few delegates had, but then none of them are here, so we might not have anything. The Secretariat would like to invite the esteemed representative from Iron Fist Accord to the floor.
Dear delegates, welcome again. We, as a Iron Fist Accord, cannot stress enough that there is a need to modernize our fleet. I mean, who wants to have a navy that is outdated and not ready to face threat? That's why we would like to propose the increase for military funding, and to be precise, new dockyards and factories in our system, so we can produce, as a quite experienced member of our alliance, ships for you. This will be a great investment, as it would provide a centralized way, more or less, to contribute to your fleets. Furthermore, we think that we should, we don't know what, but we should cut down on something, because we did agree to many of proposals today that will demand a lot of funding. So we need to cut down on something and think about our budget quite a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, esteemed representative from the Iron Fist Accord. The Secretariat would now like to invite the esteemed representative from Jade Company to the floor.
I would like to propose an amendment to the upgrading of older vessels by cycling older vessels into more peaceful areas, so that the strain on producing new vessels and retrofitting older vessels is much more degraded. That way we can push this problem off as long as possible while maintaining the military superiority that we also desperately need to maintain the sovereignty of all nations participating in the Shelter Alliance. In addition to this, I also propose that instead of producing completely new fleets, we look to retrofit older vessels with newer equipment rather than completely dry docking and turning them into museum ships. And finally, I think that the optimization of previous amendments might prove the best method to cut down on money, rather than the outright removal or denial of any other systems or required items. I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you, esteemed representative from Jade Company. The Secretariat would now like to invite the esteemed representative from Dandrade Commission to speak.
The Downraid Commission would like to bring attention to the lack of funding in our resource extraction and raw material industries. While the Alliance is at the forefront of technology and other more advanced industries, our base manufacturing and resource extraction abilities have been decreasing over the last couple years and are in some serious need of government investment. We would recommend subsidizing the industries, these kinds of industries. Well, that is all.
Thank you, esteemed delegate from Dandrade Commission. With that said, we had a few different proposals in there. Would any representative like to make a motion to split those proposals into smaller sections? Inviting the representative from Jade Company to speak.
I think as a point of interest, we should split the proposals of military action, whether it be to cycle new ships to the front line and older ships towards the wheel so that we may refit them in just time, to a separate proposal, while leaving the proposal of mining and resource extraction to possibly the next session, for the interest of getting a clear budget from the consistence of planets so that we may act upon requisition with a clear mindset. I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you, esteemed representative from Jade Company. With that said, I suppose we will move on to voting, respectively, as well as the other actions outlined within. That is the following. Number 1, increased military funding. Number 2, the cycling of older vessels to, quote, more peaceful areas, unquote, which is not defined, while they are in refit cycles. And third, I believe there was a proposal to investigate areas where funding could be cut. Am I missing anything? I apologize. I missed some stuff in notes. This is something I'll do better on next time. Military and basic, thank you. Okay. So, for basic, so we'll vote on military first. On the proposal to increase military funding, specifically for the refit and refurbishment of older vessels, we will now hold a vote on that accordingly under the triple dashed line. The motion does not carry and the proposal is withdrawn. Next, we would like to move on to the civil administrative side. A proposal to attempt to cut from specific areas of civilian industry, as well as invest in factories and other industrial production, specifically in the Iron Fist Accord. Specifics of which will be hashed out for the next core convention, I believe. No, they have to. Okay. Sorry. There was a little less planning in this section, and I apologize for that. I will have to do better. Okay, I'm gonna pull for what some of the other delegations should have done. Okay, so proposal to increase investment in certain industrial heavy sectors, specifically shipbuilding capability in the Iron Fist Accord and fuel refining capabilities within the system of ECOA, which would have been proposed by the ECOA delegation. However, also looking to see where we can cut funding, specifically in non-essential industries. The vote will be held under the triple dashed line. The vote does not carry. The motion is withdrawn. The alliance will continue on the budget for 434. We will just continue with that budget. One moment. All right. We have heard the last item on the agenda. The core convention has thus concluded the stage of consideration, and we will proceed to draft and then propose final amendments for the various resolutions considered on the floor today, which will be approved at the beginning of the next core convention, respectively. So it is decided. I kind of flubbed that at the end, but that's the end of this today. Thank you all for being here. We're going to go to the general VC for just out of character discussion now, and we can talk about how that went.